than I do, because you've been sitting through presentations all day, hearing about OpenStack. I was invited to present at a business session, so I didn't actually bring too much technology stuff with me, but I will talk about what OpenStack customers do, other than OpenStack. But in somewhere down the line, I'll also talk about what we did with OpenStack and why we went down the OpenStack path. But in general, it's really about what New South Wales government has done in terms of digital innovation. And I'll try and finish in 15-20 minutes, and if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them after that. So yeah, just before I start, how many people have actually heard of OneGov? Can you raise your hands? Wow, that's a lot. So I never imagined, because you actually won't see the OneGov logo anywhere. When you go to our website, you'll see it says Service New South Wales. And what we are is a software as a service provider for New South Wales government, and our product or the services that we provide is branded Service New South Wales, because a lot of it is customer facing, digital, mobile, etc. So how did we start? Our journey started quite a few years ago. Let me see if this clicker is working. It's probably not. That's okay. So our journey started quite a few years ago. We found ourselves in a siloed government where we had lots of clusters, and they still exist. And people familiar with government would know that the whole machinery of government is organized along different clusters: transport, justice, social services, education, etc., etc. And the situation we found ourselves in was within those clusters we had huge numbers of departments, offices, divisions. They all had their own systems. And some of these departments go back 100 years, and some of the systems probably went back 30, 40 years. And information was all over the place. There were different levels of customer support, telephone, call center, front counter, digital, all kinds of modes. Now, because of the way the machinery was set up, we had a few sort of problems that we were trying to solve as part of OneGov. So, as you know, because of the nature of how it's set up, it actually goes right through government, from the service channels all the way up to the portfolio level. And there are all kinds of problems. I mean, there are difficulties in delivering services. There are problems with data quality because information is all over the place. The systems and processes are, in different systems. It's hard to change stuff. If you want to, for example, change your business process, and you have to talk to someone to update your system, it takes time. There is also, because of the duplication of the processes and the systems, there's a huge amount of competition for resources within clusters itself. And as a result, there's always a strain on budget. And the impact, if you see on the right-hand side of the slides, is on the customer. Customers have difficulty accessing information. They have to wait in line. There's a lot of time wasted chasing up. You can't use your mobile phone for getting services. So as you know, these are the challenges, and we're dealing with those challenges at a government scale. So what did we do? So government came up with a very good idea, which was to consolidate many of these systems, processes into one platform. We went through a process of analyzing large numbers of systems, their data, what they did. Everyone we talked to said they were very different, their processes were very unique, they were meant for their customer base. But when we actually took a 20,000-foot view of the data and what they were doing, what we found was a lot of similarity in what they were doing. So which actually helped us to come up with re-engineered business processes. So what we did, when you talk about government business processes, what are they? I'm not talking about ERP, by the way, so not SAP, not that kind of stuff. Mainly line of business. For example, licensing, compliance, grants, social services. This is government's day-to-day transactional activity. Now, so what we found was that a huge amount of similarities across those processes, how cases are managed, how payments are done across channels, how partners are managed. So what we decided was to create re-engineered business processes, and we actually built a platform. And I'll talk a little bit about the OpenStack part of it. So what we deployed was a hybrid cloud, and initially it was a private cloud within the government data center, which is in Silverwater and Unandera. And on top of that, we basically deployed a multi-tenanted application that deploys the same business processes for pretty much every government client. The functionality is reusable. You can configure entire office or a department or an organization and roll it out into the platform in a very short period of time. It's a little bit like a Salesforce within government. Once we did that, we also, initially it was not on OpenStack, we moved to OpenStack later, but in the process we migrated about 50 organizations over a few years period, and it was a very, very hectic time. We actually helped organizations change manage, we funded, we assisted all the way. And as a result, today, we're probably doing about 10 million transactions a year on the platform. We manage, a similar number of customers and licenses and records and all kinds of sort of, line of business activities. We provide omni-channel experience for customers, so you can get the same service through Service New South Wales at the front counter. You can go online and you can, on your mobile, and you can renew a license or you can get a grant for something. It's done really well. It's 24/7. It's improved quite a few things. So this is what it looks like today. So there's a service platform that cuts across all the silos. There are standard, I guess, processes that you can see there. There is a transaction platform. There's a data analytics. There is CRM. There's an API platform. We're big on APIs now. There's fees, payments, digital communications, emails, SMS, etc. as a comms channel. And as a result of that, the service channels have also been consolidated. So today, when you walk into a Service New South Wales center, you can do hundreds and hundreds of transactions through one customer service officer. And the reason that's possible is because of this architecture. So obviously, big benefits. There's a huge cost savings across government. There's the departments and offices are actually utilizing their budgets much better. There is a lot less competition for funding because it costs a lot less to do stuff. And money can be used for better things than just on IT projects. We have automated a lot of the processes. The information quality is much better. It's consistent. You can report across the entire cluster or across clusters. And obviously the service channels I talked about. And for the customer, it's great because you get a modern service platform which is quite unique. You look anywhere in Australia, and this is a great success story. So what are we doing next? So there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, and it's becoming more and more customer centric now. So we are working on a single account to manage all your transactions. So you could get a Service New South Wales account. Today, if you renew your driver's license, you get sort of a Service New South Wales account. But eventually, through that account, you'll be able to manage pretty much most of your things. We are focusing a lot on mobile devices, IoT. We are working on some cool concepts like digital license. Now, instead of carrying your card in your wallet, Like I stopped carrying my credit card because I've started using Apple Pay, that's because I'm an ANZ customer. But similarly, you'll be able to carry your license in your phone. We are working on our processes, how we make an agile sort of environment more agile, because I think it's just the beginning, I guess. We're spending a lot of time and money on big data, machine learning. We're actually looking ahead, and this is what you'll see over the next few years. The technology is changing very fast. We're looking at, for example, technologies such as bots, chatbots, and conversational interfaces, moving away from just your standard web and mobile. How we manage to do all this stuff within government, you need a bit of a culture change as well. And we are, I'm part of the Department of Finance Services and Innovation, so we're kind of the eye in that department. And we have introduced several new ways of sort of thinking about this stuff. For example, we run innovation labs. We, for example, for those big, hairy projects, which nobody seemed to get out of the door, we run, skunk works on the side that tend to disrupt stuff, show people how to do things. And we get a lot of buy-in by those processes, and actually a lot of goodwill as well. And I think when you think of government, typically innovation is not the first thing that comes to your mind, but I believe we're trying hard to change that, and that's really our sort of goal. Now, how do we use OpenStack for all of that? The whole thing runs on OpenStack. We have quite a large application environment which has all these stuff that I talked about, the CRM, the database, the analytics. Pretty much everything runs on OpenStack across 2 data centers. We took this journey a couple of years ago, and we partnered with Rackspace to build a private cloud. We almost accidentally got into it because we used to run other more traditional platforms. We had a few challenges. For example, storage, massive challenge. We're running traditional SANs, and just the cost of the storage was more than the revenue that we earned. So we had to think laterally, and one of the things we did was change the architecture completely. So it became cellular. So so we don't have any SAN anymore. So what we have is, just stock standard, Dell boxes with lots and lots of SSDs and RAM, and that's about it. That's our architecture. Okay, so it's nothing fancy. The whole thing happens in software. We do use Nova, Neutron, all of that stuff. We're looking at object storage in a big way because we manage huge amounts of documents, objects, files, and I think that's a good sort of a platform for us. And eventually, I think one of the problems we have is it's a small sort of because it's a large environment. There's a little. We are not that flexible in terms of how we can keep upgrading. So, and there are a few learnings that we are kind of going through at this point in time. And it's always a learning process for us because, it's with Rackspace, it's good that because we got a sort of a support contract with them, and they do good sort of support for us, and we kind of look forward to getting to the next level on a sort of regular basis. But yeah, so if any of you guys have any sort of interest in this space and you want to know how we run an OpenStack-based environment, I'm happy to sort of either take questions now or touch base after the event and talk about it. That's it, really.
Indeed. Well, personally, I think you deserve an extra special round of applause because getting to this level of technological innovation inside a government is requiring many more hurdles than others have to jump through. But the good news is we do have the opportunity to pay our respects and ask brilliant questions. Who would like to begin? over here.
How do you convince the various departments within government to unify their processes, as in change what they've been doing for decades and then do new stuff?
I think the answer is yes, because it's a gradual process. Change doesn't happen overnight. And sorry, how do you convince them? Well, I think the best thing that you can do to convince someone is to demonstrate. Just show them what's possible, and that will kind of answer a lot of questions.
Hi. You sort of touched on it a little bit just now around the upgrade process, and you sort of gave the impression that it was probably not as upgraded as frequently as sounds like what you would like, I guess. Is that because it wasn't designed or thought through the upgrade cycle when it was first put in, it sort of grew organically, and then we came, oh my God, how do we actually upgrade this thing? Is that how it happened, or is it just because the business doesn't want to change because it's so critical to the organisation and they're just worried? Like, do you have a pre-prod and a prod? Like, can you talk a little bit about that sort of space?
I think it's the you answered it. It's your first sort of observation, which is, as I said, we went into it almost as an accident, and I don't think we have actually thought through the architecture that well in terms of how we would be upgrading. I don't think we knew as much about OpenStack then compared to now. So I think there's a bit of that. Also the nature of our business. It's a 24/7 platform. We got millions of transactions happening all the time. We got huge numbers of customers using the platform. It's a multi-tenanted shared platform, so it's easier said than done to actually, we still haven't, and some of the products that we use, the applications, are not actually meant for this kind of environments. They are meant for more traditional and enterprise environments. And we actually had to beat them into shape to actually work on OpenStack. And that was part of our challenge. So, but having said that, is that what I think will be in a few years' time? Probably not. I think we're working on, how to orchestrate things better, how to sort of, minimize disruption. But in our line of work, the way we approach things, it's often very, very organic. And because we simply don't have the time or the budget or the thinking space to actually, think that far ahead.
Thanks.
Hi, I have a question about innovation. And do you use a fixed set of methodologies in your innovation labs? And what are those? Just if you use a fixed set of methodologies, and what are those? Yeah.
No, you mean the lean startup method, or no? We don't have any fixed set of methodologies. What we do is we keep aside a little bit of our capacity for research and development. So we do a lot of R&D. Pretty much most of our guys have a little bit of a spare time. That actually also keeps them, excited. Whenever possible, we try and introduce, at every opportunity that we get, we try and introduce a product or a service that's new, that helps us learn something. Typically, we get an opportunity to, say, do some work for a client, and we would look at those opportunities and those funding sort of opportunities to actually introduce something new. So that's how we approach. We do a lot of, sometimes we spend a little bit of time and energy developing a concept or prototype, and we take them to stakeholders. Sometimes we take them to executives, so all the way up to the secretary, perhaps, do a demonstration. So that's how we kind of build the noise and build the sort of momentum. And we also listen a lot to people who are coming to us with ideas.
Firstly, you've deserved to be congratulated. You've done a great job as a member of New South Wales here. It's great. You outlined a lot of things that you've done well. I was just wondering, if you had the chance to do it all again, what would you do differently?
Probably ask for more money.
Yeah, hi. I'd just like to say congratulations as well, because I can't imagine what you went through to get to where you are. Just Thanks. Touching on storage a bit more than you spoke about. Obviously, you guys got massive amounts of storage.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, if you moved away from the whole SAN design,
yep.
Are you still using block storage, or distributed storage?
Yeah, we're using block storage. We're using both sort of block storage and object storage. What we found out was our main storage needs were concentrated around a couple of areas. For example, we had a massive database. We also had lots and lots of files. For example, millions of attachments, photographs, all kinds of files, XML snippets, whatever. And these were pretty well served with something like object storage because it works fine. As far as data was concerned, most of our transactional stuff lives in a database. So that's the only space where we haven't virtualized. But what we're doing now in terms of data is we're also looking at an extra layer of, so we're kind of investing in Hadoop in a big way and putting the HDFS platform. And we would actually try to use, because one of our challenges of database is the scalability, the horizontal scalability. So we can't keep buying bigger and bigger boxes, and that's kind of causes problems. And in this day and age, it's very hard to archive stuff as well. Everybody wants everything online all the time. So this is the reason we're kind of looking at some newer stuff like Hadoop to actually ship out some of the information, but scale it horizontally. So that's how we're approaching it. But for none of that stuff, you actually need a SAN.
So, on your Hadoop side of things, are you actually going to run that on OpenStack, or is that just going to be
yes.
hardware-based?
Yes, but with some modifications. So I'm happy to talk to you offline about what we're doing. We use Hortonworks, HDFS, and it's a certain way you have to configure your platform. You can use OpenStack, by the way, very well if you're using sort of a centralized storage. But if you're not, there are other ways of doing it.
Sorry, how large is the team that's managing the OpenStack infrastructure? And was there a disruption in some of the positions, or did it lead to innovation or some opportunity? Not
really. I mean, many of our people. Sorry, to your first question, are you asking just about the OpenStack team? Our support is done by Rackspace, and we have 2 guys. That's it.
I think you mentioned that your current environment is now hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe that? Does that include some integrations with still legacy applications?
Okay. Yeah. So what I mean by hybrid is okay. First of all, I'll tell you what we're not doing. We're not shipping workloads between public cloud and private cloud in a transactional environment. We're not doing that. What I mean by hybrid is we use a lot of software as a service platforms. For example, we have a core transaction platform that's sitting in private cloud, but a huge number of services are actually software as a service that we are integrated to. For example, our email runs on SendGrid. All our mobile sort of APIs are used to Elio, and so on and so forth. So we've got all our instrumentation is done using New Relic. So around the edges, we've kind of put a huge number of services which are running in public clouds, but integrated very deeply into our platform. So that's really what I mean by hybrid.
So, Rahul, I've just been informed that we will be very soon invaded by hordes of technical people from the basement. We'd probably better, thank you and get you to safety before that happens. So. Let's all take the opportunity to thank once again the guy responsible for the OneGov platform, Rahul Dutta.
Thank you very much. Thank you.